Today you'll be completing a Law of Conservation of Mass lab in which you will complete two different reactions, and you'll see right now. So the first reaction is going to be mixing baking soda with vinegar. So your materials are two empty beakers, one smaller, one bigger, some vinegar in another beaker, baking soda, and a plastic bag. So there are two different parts. Part A is called the open system. So step one in part A is to fill one beaker with 20 milliliters of vinegar. You're going to use the larger of the two beakers. So you have a beaker with some vinegar and you pour 20 milliliters into it. Step two, add 1 spoonful of baking soda into the second smaller beaker. It should be dry. At no point should you put any liquid in the smaller beaker. So you put 1 spoonful of baking soda in the smaller beaker. Step 3 is to set the balance to 0. And step 4 says place both beakers on the balance at the same time and record the starting mass on your answer sheet. Step 5, dump the baking soda into the beaker. Do not stir. You'll see some bubbles. You must use the amounts that have been specified, or else your reaction will bubble over and you will receive a 0. Step 6, place both beakers back on the balance and record the ending mass. So if you've never taken them off, that's fine. You just leave them like that, record the mass. If you did, make sure you put them both back on, even though one is now empty. 7, calculate the difference in starting and ending mass. So that's the end of part A. So you'll dump your liquid contents down the sink and rinse your beaker with water. Your other beaker is dry. Don't rinse it, just leave it like that for the next group. Part B says to fill a clean beaker with 30 milliliters of vinegar. So now using the same beaker, large, that you used for the vinegar the first time, you're going to use again, except this time you're going to use 30 milliliters of vinegar. Then you're going to add 1 spoonful of baking soda into a clean plastic bag. You're going to gently place the beaker with vinegar in the plastic bag. Do not spill the vinegar. At this point, you do not want them to mix. Set the balance to 0. Try to push all of the air out of the bag and seal the bag and place it on the balance without spilling the vinegar. You must take the starting mass before they have mixed. If you spill the vinegar, you'll receive a 0 for this portion of the lab. So you record the starting mass before the vinegar and baking soda have mixed. Then without opening the bag, you still leave it sealed shut. Tip the beaker to mix the vinegar and the baking soda. Make sure that your bag is sealed shut so that no mess is made outside of the bag. So you tip all of the vinegar out and you should be able to see more bubbles. Let the reaction happen. Once the bubbles have stopped, without opening the bag, record the ending mass of the bag with the beaker inside of it. Calculate the difference in starting and ending mass. Once you have your ending mass, you can open your bag, rinse your beaker, seal the bag back shut, and throw it in the trash. Do not throw your beaker in the trash. So rinse your beaker. Now you're ready for reaction number 2. Reaction number 2, you'll set all that stuff aside. What you need is an Erlenmeyer flask, which looks like this, a balance, some water, which you'll get from the faucet, 2 effervescent tabs, and a balloon. So once again, there are 2 parts to reaction number 2. For the first part, you're going to fill the Erlenmeyer flask with 50 milliliters of water. So you just use the sink, 50 milliliters. Set the balance to 0. Place the flask and 1 effervescent tablet, not inside the flask, on the balance and record the starting mass. So do not put the tablet into the beaker. You set it on the balance the flask, next to the flask. Record the starting mass on your worksheet. Then once you have the starting mass, place the tablet in the flask of water.
Doesn't fit.
If it doesn't fit, you'll need to break it in half and put both pieces. You'll see some bubbles occurring. Swirl and wait about 3 minutes. Really, you just have to wait until the bubbles stop. It may or may not take 3 minutes. So you let it keep going. For the next part B, you'll need to put the other tablet in the balloon. So while you're waiting for that to happen, you can start preparing putting the other tablet. You may need to break it apart and have somebody open the balloon while you put it inside. So bubbling for my first reaction is still going. For the sake of time, we're going to cut this off, but you need to let that go until the bubbles all stop. It may take close to 3 minutes. Record the ending mass. Swirling helps it go faster. So record your ending mass, then you can, when you're done, dump the contents down the sink, rinse your flask, and you're going to reuse it for part B. For part B, you will need another 50 milliliters of water from the sink. You've already placed the effervescent tablet in the balloon, so you'll set the balance to 0. Place the balloon around the rim of the flask, but do not let the tablet fall into the water. So very carefully, notice the balloon is off to the side. With the balloon on the flask, you'll take the starting mass before the 2 have mixed. Then you'll lift the balloon, causing the tablet to fall into the water, and then once again you'll swirl and wait for about 3 minutes. Make sure you get all of the tablet into the water. Notice the balloon filling up. Once the bubbles stop, you can record your ending mass and once again rinse the flask. You can remove the balloon. Don't throw the balloon, don't blow up the balloon, don't do anything to the balloon, just set it aside. Once you have your ending mass, take the balloon off, set it back to the side for the next group, rinse your flask, and you may answer the questions and turn in your lab sheet.